At my daughter's graduation, she stood on that stage in her white gown. Sunlight spilling through the auditorium windows, and she thanked everyone, her teachers, her friends, her father, everyone except me. Her voice didn't even hesitate. It was smooth, proud, deliberate. The audience clapped, and I smiled, but inside, something final settled in my chest. Years of sacrifices collapsed into silence. I was the one who worked double shifts, who sold my jewelry for her tuition, who stayed up every night editing her essays because she said her father understood her better. He didn't. He just showed up for the photo ops. I was the one who did the living, he did the remembering. After the ceremony, she hugged him first. He cried, of course. Men like him always save their emotions for moments when there's an audience. When she finally came to me, she said, "Mom, I hope you're proud." I looked at her and realized I was. Just not in the way she expected. A month later, she called to say she'd be moving out. Dad's helping me get a place near the city. She didn't ask. She informed me. Her room was still full of her life, trophies, yearbooks, love notes folded into shoeboxes. I walked in after she left and sat on her bed. The same one I'd saved 3 months of wages to buy. And that's when it hit me. She didn't just outgrow the house. She outgrew me. So I sold it, quietly, efficiently, to a couple who loved the old maple in the yard. The one my daughter carved her initials into when she was 10. The papers were signed in under a week. I didn't tell her. I didn't have to. The call came 2 months later. "Mom, I was thinking of coming home for the weekend." "There's no home to come back to," I said simply. "What do you mean?" "I sold it." The silence on the line was sharp. You sold my house?" "No," I said. "I sold my house. You just grew up in it." She didn't speak for a long time. Then she hung up. I didn't expect forgiveness, and I didn't need it. I'd spent too many years teaching her everything except how to value what's given freely. Now I live in a smaller place. No memories, no echoes, just quiet. She sends messages sometimes, polite, distant ones, but I can tell she's still angry. Maybe she should be. Maybe that's what growing up really feels like, realizing that love, when unreturned long enough, learns how to pack its own boxes. At my daughter's graduation, she thanked everyone except me. So I sold her childhood home, not out of revenge, but closure. Because one day she'll drive past that street, see strangers living in her old bedroom, and finally understand that gratitude is not a speech. It's what keeps the lights on. At my daughter's graduation, she stood under the hot June sun, tassel swaying against her cheek, smiling like the world was hers. She thanked her father for his endless support, her professors for believing in her, and her friends for getting her through the hard times. Her voice trembled a little when she said hard times. Maybe she meant me. But she never said my name. Not once. The applause roared. I clapped too, quietly, the way I used to when she first learned to walk. Back then, she would always turn back to see if I was watching. That day, she didn't even look my way. Afterward, she ran into her father's arms first. The man who left when she was 8 but somehow became the hero in every version of her story. "You did so much for me," she said to him. I wanted to laugh. He had done so much. He'd shown up for birthdays, sent checks, and taken credit for all the effort I made to keep her life whole. When she finally came to me, she smiled awkwardly, almost like I was someone's aunt. "Mom," she said, "thank you for coming." That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house, the one I bought after the divorce. The one where she grew up, and saw everything I'd built around her absence. Her trophies. Her first drawing on the fridge. The height marks on the doorframe. All proof of a life that no longer needed me. I realized then that love without appreciation isn't love. It's labor. A week later, I put the house on the market. It sold fast. Families love places with history, even if it isn't theirs. I packed her childhood into boxes, labeled them by years, and stacked them neatly in the attic for the new owners to find if they cared enough to look. When she called, her voice was bright. "Dad's getting me a new car," she said. "I'll come visit soon." "Don't bother," I replied. "Why not?" "Because there's no home to visit." "What are you talking about?" "I sold it." Silence. "Then, you can't just, that's our house." "No," I said softly. "It was mine. You just grew up in it." She didn't reply. We didn't speak for months. Then one evening, she sent a message. Was it because of the graduation? I stared at it for a long time before writing back, "No. It was because you made me invisible in a life I built for you. Now I live by the sea. Small house, quiet mornings. No echoes of slammed doors or teenage arguments. Sometimes I see her posts online. New city, new apartment, always smiling. I hope she's happy. I hope she's free." At my daughter's graduation, she thanked everyone except me. So I sold her childhood home. Not out of anger, but peace. Because sometimes love has to burn its own house down to stop waiting for someone to come home. At my daughter's graduation, I sat in the third row, holding the same camcorder I'd used to film her first day of kindergarten. She looked beautiful, radiant, confident, everything I'd worked my entire life to give her. And then, when it was her turn to speak, she thanked everyone. Her teachers, her friends, her father, especially her father. The man who left when she was 8. Who mailed checks but never showed up for parent-teacher conferences. "You're the reason I'm here," she said to him, tears glistening. I smiled because mothers don't interrupt public speeches, even when their hearts split quietly in half. When the applause faded, she came to hug me last. "You're crying," she said, surprised. "You must be proud." "I am," I told her. "But what I meant was, I used to be." After the ceremony, her father invited everyone to dinner. She went, of course. I drove home alone to the house I'd nearly lost twice, once to the mortgage, once to exhaustion. Every inch of it was built on sacrifice. The paint on her bedroom walls was still the same pale pink she'd chosen at 12. Her trophies, her prom photos, the notes she used to leave me on the fridge, all of it waited like a museum of someone else's childhood. And it hit me then. She didn't belong to this house anymore. Not the way I still did. I was still living inside the echo of her growing up, while she'd already moved on. Rewriting our history without me in it. So I called a realtor the next morning. "I'm ready to sell," I said. The house went fast. Too fast. The couple who bought it had a little girl who ran through the hallways the first time they visited. Her laughter sounded like my daughter's once did. It felt fitting. A few weeks later, my daughter called. "Dad says you're selling the house?" She said, like it was gossip. "I already did." Her voice sharpened. "Mom, how could you? That's my home." "No," I said softly. "It was your childhood. You left it behind the moment you stopped remembering who kept the lights on." She hung up. We didn't speak for a while after that. Months later, she visited. Stood outside the new family's door, staring at the porch swing she'd begged me to buy years ago. "You really did it," she whispered. "I had to," I said. "It was the only way to stop waiting for you to come home." We stood there for a while, strangers on a street that used to mean everything. She cried first. Not loud, just one of those quiet cries that belong to people realizing something too late. I didn't hate her, I just stopped needing her gratitude. At my daughter's graduation, she thanked everyone except me. So I sold her childhood home, not to hurt her, but to free myself from the illusion that love is owed. Because sometimes the only way to move on from being forgotten is to leave the proof of it behind. At my daughter's graduation, the air smelled like lilacs and false pride. She stood at the podium, glowing. Her hair pinned just the way I used to do when she was little. I want to thank the people who shaped me, she said, and my heart leaned forward, foolishly hopeful. Then she spoke her father's name first. Her professors, her friends, even her therapist. But not me. Not once. People clapped. Her father cried. Of course, that performative kind of pride that comes easy when you've only shown up for the milestones. I just sat there, hands folded, smiling like someone who'd rehearsed her invisibility. Because I had. For 22 years. When she walked across that stage, I remembered the nights I stayed up sewing her dresses, packing lunches, working shifts that blurred into mornings. The time I sold my wedding ring to pay for her college application fees because her father wasn't liquid that month. I remembered all of it, and for the first time, it didn't feel like love. It felt like labor. After the ceremony, she ran straight to him. "You've always been my rock," she said. He hugged her like a man collecting credit. When she finally came to me, it was with the careful politeness you use on distant relatives. "Thank you for coming, Mom," she said, as if attendance was the only thing I'd ever given her. I told her she looked beautiful. What I meant was, you look nothing like the little girl who used to love me. A week later, I listed the house. The same one I'd raised her in, the same one I'd fought to keep when her father walked out. Every wall still carried pieces of her, stickers on her old door, the pencil marks charting her height, the pink curtains she'd begged for. I packed it all into boxes, and with every drawer I emptied, I felt lighter. Like erasing ghosts. She called when she found out. "You sold it?" she said, her voice trembling. "That's my home." "No," I said, steady. "It was mine. You just grew up there." She didn't reply, just a quiet inhale. The sound of someone realizing too late that love has limits. Now, I live in a small apartment downtown. No reminders, no history. I paint. I read. I eat dinner without setting an extra plate. She sends texts sometimes, polite, careful ones, asking how I'm doing. I always answer kindly. I've learned that peace doesn't come from being remembered. It comes from no longer needing to be. At my daughter's graduation, she thanked everyone except me. So I sold her childhood home, not out of revenge, but release. Because sometimes a mother's love isn't about holding on. It's about teaching the world, and your child, that even devotion can pack its bags and leave. When it's finally uninvited. At my daughter's graduation, she stood on the stage in that white dress I had paid for. Her hair styled the way I used to do before she decided she was too grown up for my help. She smiled at the crowd, her voice clear and proud as she began her speech. "I want to thank the people who made me who I am today," she said. I waited, stupidly, as if love were something that could still be acknowledged in public. "My dad, my professors, my best friends," she continued. The applause came before she even finished. My name never crossed her lips. It shouldn't have surprised me. She'd been rewriting the story for years. In her version, her father was the hero who inspired her. Not the man who vanished for half her childhood. I was just the background noise, the one who paid the bills, packed the lunches, took the phone calls from teachers, and never complained. Maybe that was my mistake. I was too quiet while everyone else learned how to take credit for the things I built. After the ceremony, she ran to him first. He cried, of course, holding her like a trophy he'd polished himself. When she finally came to me, she smiled politely, as though I were some guest she barely remembered inviting. Thanks for coming, Mom, she said. Always, I replied, though the word felt hollow. That night, I walked through the house, her house, or at least that's how she'd always seen it. The room still smelled like the past, vanilla candles, pencil shavings, childhood. The trophies lined the shelves, the height marks still on the kitchen doorframe. It all looked like devotion frozen in place. But devotion without gratitude is just servitude. So I decided to be free. I listed the house the next morning. It sold fast. I didn't even haggle. The couple who bought it had a little girl about 6 years old. I watched her run through the hallway on the last day, laughing the same way my daughter once did. Only this time, I didn't feel nostalgic. I felt finished. A month later, my daughter called. Dad told me you sold the house, she said, her tone caught between disbelief and accusation. I did, I said. You didn't even tell me. I didn't think you'd notice. That was my home. No, I said softly. It was my life. You just lived in it. There was a long silence. Then she said, You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm just tired. We didn't talk for a while after that. She sent a few awkward texts months later, hope you're well. Thinking of you, but I never replied. I didn't need to. I'd already said everything that mattered when I signed the papers. Now, I live in a quiet apartment overlooking the water. I keep one framed photo of her, smiling at 5 years old, before she learned how to forget me. I don't hate her. I just stopped asking to be remembered. At my daughter's graduation, she thanked everyone except me. So I sold her childhood home, not to hurt her, but to teach her something words never could. When love becomes invisible long enough, it learns how to leave without saying goodbye.